Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Seth Meyers, clinical psychologist. I'm going to share an insight tip in this video that hopefully will be helpful. So, I'm going to talk for a few minutes about 5 subtle signs that an individual has become unhappy. So, a lot of times when we talk about becoming an unhappy person, a lot of times there are clear signs. Someone will say, I hate my life, I'm miserable. So that's obvious that the individual is really struggling and that they have become unhappy. That's clear. But a lot of times an individual won't say something so explicitly. In fact, a lot of times an individual won't even know or have accepted with themselves just how unhappy they've become. So I'm going to share 5 signs, 5 subtle signs of the fact that an individual may have become unhappy. And we're going to start with the first one, that is being quick to criticize others. So, one subtle sign that a person has become an unhappy person is a quickness to find fault or be critical of others. They look at someone's life and they comment negatively about their appearance, their weight, their personality, their lack of success in life. They sort of pick at people, and it's almost like they seem to get some sort of satisfaction out of being critical of others, or they can't help themselves. They're negative about other people. They always find the fault with other people. Now, a lot of times when an individual has become unhappy, it makes perfect sense in a lot of ways that they find fault with others because it just shows you what they're doing internally with themselves. If a person has become unhappy, they are over identified, over focused on what is wrong with them, what is wrong with their life. And a lot of times they engage in a defense mechanism called projection, where they start looking for that and seeing that in other people. So they actually find fault and criticisms in others that actually deep down they really feel with themselves. They just can't admit it to themselves. So a quickness to criticize others is a definite sign, a subtle sign of an individual who really is probably not a very happy person. Another subtle sign of unhappiness in a person is having a competitive mindset and at the same time not having a lot of obvious or external success. So, someone who has big dreams and is very competitive is always engaging in social comparison. Looking around at what other people have, what other people are doing, how much other people have, how much success they have, looking at their status and comparing themselves. If you have a person who is a very competitive person, they are always keeping score of successes. So, an individual who is really competitive but not having the success that they really want, that they really believe that they're due, then a lot of times they become unhappy. And again, it makes sense if they become unhappy because they want something so much and yet they're not getting it. They don't have the sort of peace in their own minds to tell themselves that they are still okay, to still focus on what they do have in their life. It's very black or white. All they can see is what they don't have. Another subtle sign of unhappiness in a person is a distrust of other people. Generally, feeling that you don't trust someone, feeling that you're not sure about someone's motivations or intentions, feeling a lot of times like people are out for themselves, people only care about themselves, that in the end, everybody is an island and people don't really think about each other and really care about others' feelings. Everybody looks out for themselves in the end. That is a really distrusting mindset. That's a mindset that someone really doesn't feel comfortable with interdependence, depending on others. You know, there is such a thing as healthy dependence. Sometimes we talk about codependence, that there is a possibility to be attached, but over attached in an unhealthy, codependent way. But there is something called healthy dependence, and it is healthy to trust to some extent. Now, one of the things that's interesting is research actually shows that trust is an important component of healthy and satisfying relationships. So, when a person has reached a point where they really are distrusting of others in relationships, really are guarded and don't feel comfortable sharing who they are, don't trust the general goodness in others, a lot of times that is a very subtle sign that an individual is an unhappy person. A fourth sign that I have seen that is a subtle sign that an individual has become unhappy is shifting between sort of two different personas. One, a public persona, and two, a persona that is very different behind closed doors. So, a lot of times, an individual who has become unhappy, they may act one way in public. They may play the social game and say nice things, and they may mimic certain niceties that they see other people say to each other and other people do. They will play the game in that way. And yet, there is a very different self that they feel and that they show others in their close personal life behind closed doors. They may feel angry and sullen and disappointed and negative, or even say mean or cruel things behind closed doors about others, but act a very different way when they are out in public. So there's these sort of two different selves or personas that are at work in someone who has become unhappy because they can't regulate just one persona. They feel conflicted between these extreme feelings of wanting to be accepted and liked and do the right thing, and yet deep down feeling completely different and unhappy and frustrated and disappointed in other ways. These two black or white kind of components of themselves can't be reconciled. The fifth and final sign that an individual has become an unhappy person is actually the most subtle. And it's one that probably a lot of people don't think a lot about. And it's a complete disconnection from awe, from the sense of awe, from a sense of just natural amazement and wonder, that sense of wow, that take your breath away moment in your day when you feel like, wow, there is wonder in the world. There is beauty in the world. There are good things in the world. The littlest things can make a person, normally, when they're happy and balanced and feel positive, feel this kind of emotional pop in their day, this opening up of the eyes, this sense of wonder, like there is some good in the world. And sometimes we can't even explain why it is or even what it is, but that sense of wonder and amazement and awe in the fact that who can explain this life, some of the goodness in this life, and that there is goodness in life. Research actually supports that awe is associated with greater well being, and specifically, that a sense of awe is associated with a daily reduced stress. I have found that maintaining a sense of awe is crucial in a really adult, complex world that is filled with unpredictability and frustration and difficulties. That sense of awe is actually critical to help us all keep things in perspective, keep a sense of balance, and really to keep from feeling too unhappy or bogged down by some of the really difficult things that happen in life. So, a disconnection from that sense of awe and wonder and amazement just in your everyday life is often a very subtle sign that a person has become unhappy. Now, all of those signs aside, what does a person do if they have become unhappy in that way? Whether that is you, whether it's someone that you love, the first step is always to acknowledge, to identify the actual unhappiness. To say to yourself, well, I do feel unhappy. I do feel unhappy in these particular parts of my life. And to be able to isolate, these are the parts that are causing a sense of unhappiness. Because usually when a person has become unhappy, it's not every single component of their life that they feel unhappy about. It's usually a few particular components that are the source of the greatest unhappiness. Then it's about setting up an action plan to figure out what kinds of improvements you can make. And one of the best steps to do, of course, is to seek out mental health services by calling your local mental health clinic or seeking out a good online provider. Those are options in addition Share with someone in your personal life exactly how you're feeling. Tell at least one person that you have a close, trusting relationship with about the unhappy feelings that you have and ask, have you ever felt this way too? And what kinds of things did you do to try to get out of that rut? In my experience clinically, I watch people change every single day, and it is possible to change, but it does take action. So the question is, what action steps can you do today to try to improve the situation in your life, to try to improve the quality of some of your relationships, to feel more purposeful each day that what you do is somehow helpful to another person? Those are all key steps to becoming a little happier. Anyhow, I hope this video has been helpful. If this video has been helpful, please like it so that I have a sense of what is helpful to you. And if you like to go deeper into some of these issues, I cover these issues in depth in the interviews I do with guests on the podcast Insight with Dr. Seth, and also go in depth with my co host Jeannie on a whole range of mental health topics. And hopefully, we all gain a little insight into ourselves and others through these videos and the podcast.